So let's talk a little bit about Daniel. He seems like a very autobiographical character. And I may be making a huge assumption there, but how much of Daniel's character is similar to who you are? Certainly, you've had a lot of experience and a lot of the things that Daniel, talks about in the novel.
What I always say when I'm asked that question, and I think every writer in the end is asked that question, is that, I mean, you have to answer it two ways. On the one hand, everything a writer writes is autobiographical. The only material any of us ever have in the end is our own material. So what's come out of your own life. But something about the writing process, as it becomes art, it is more dramatic, magnified, really different than anything I've ever experienced. So I think the writing does that. So the material is always homegrown. I mean, it grows up out of yourself, and I think that's all that people are interested. I mean, something that is kind of, I think it seems fake if it's not authentic to you, and that the reader unconsciously knows that. So it has to be autobiographical. There's a lot about television and a television studio, and that's built in as part of Daniel's mother and her life. And I mean, I grew up in a television studio.
It seemed that many of the details he describes seems like you could really only know them if you had that experience. So, like, the feel of film rushing through your hands as you're kind of editing actual film. The emulsive kind of film,
The,
not,
the old-fashioned emulsive kind of film, when you're running 8 millimeter film, which I have done a million times, right? And then also the part, I mean, in the first chapter, as he's sort of rediscovering this part of his past, because he lost his license and he's sort of temporarily not practicing. I mean, I was an AV geek too. And that part's pretty autobiographical. It started in elementary school, back when I was in elementary school, probably not when you were in school. We ran films. That's what we had. That was even before television was in the school. So every school we had the 16 millimeter projector and the screen, and I just went up one day and said, "Oh, I'll just run that." And I don't know how. I still can't. How did I know how to do that? And I knew how to thread the machine and everything like that. And I guess just from being around film all my life, I picked it up.
Your father was a TV man,
Yeah.
and perhaps something rubbed off, or the watching him at a young age, I suppose.
Yeah, when I was very young, he was the film editor. He was in the film editing department. So the whole thing, news at 6, he would get the film at 4 and have to develop it, get it ready, and get it ready to go for the 6 o'clock news. But also, what I remember, a big thing as a kid, is that we used to have Bugs Bunny at 4 o'clock, which was that's what I wanted the most. And the great thing about me as a kid, I would go to my dad's office and he would set up and just play Bugs Bunny for me as much as I wanted.
My
So,
goodness, the indulgences you must have
yeah, I had
had.
indulgences. I got to play with cameras. I got to sit in the director's booth. Um,
But Bugs Bunny on demand, I mean.
yeah, back before there was any on demand. The only way.
Healing Lily, a Novel of Hope by D. Stephenson Bond. Published by Alternative Views Publishing. Copyright 2010.